Welcome to program flow statement session in C#. So what we will be learning in this session? In this session, we will quickly understand what are the different types of statements in C#, and then we will focus our session on different program flow statements such as selection statements, iteration statements, and then branching or jump statements. Now with this, let's start the session with different types of statements. Every program or method in C# has set of statements written to implement the program logic. For example, if you want to implement some sorting algorithm or sorting program logic, you will have to write set of statements. Or if you want to calculate interest, then you will have to implement that interest calculation logic in a series of statements. Statements execute in the order in which they are written in the code. So they follow the same textual order for execution in which they are written. We can group series of statements together in a statement block. And statement block groups the statement in curly brackets. Let us now understand different types of C# statements. First one is declaration statements. These statements are used to declare variables and optionally to initialize them. For example, you can see here I have declared variable integer k and I have declared a variable string str1 and initialized a value to it. Next type of statements are expression statements. These statements are expressions and when evaluated they may result into change of state. Typically a change of state means change in a value of a variable. Let's take an example. For example, let's say if we have an expression statement which is calculating area of a shape and the resultant value is stored into a variable. So whenever this expression gets evaluated, the resultant value gets copied into this variable, which results into change of state. So this is a typical expression statement. Even increment statements and decrement statements, such as if you have a variable I, then I++ or j++ or j-, these are also expression statements. Then even method calls. So whenever we call methods on a specific object, then these are also expression statements. Object instantiation are also expression statements. Let us now understand program flow statements. Program flow statements are responsible for changing flow of the program. There are three types of program flow statements. First one is selection statement. Then we have iteration or loops, and then branch or jump statement. Now let's learn these program flow statements in detail. Let us now understand selection statements. Selection statements are used to branch to a different part of the code. So selection statements really select a part of the code to be executed. But on what basis they select? They select depending upon one or more specified conditions. So we can specify the conditions. If these conditions evaluate to true, then it gets branched to a part of the code, or it continues with the normal flow of the execution. If-else statement and switch statements are examples of selection statements. Next are iteration or loop statements. Whenever we want our piece of code or a statement block to be executed multiple times or in a repeated manner, then we can use this iteration or loop statements. How many times the loop needs to be executed, that is controlled by one or more conditions. And again, it is not mandatory to specify these conditions. Examples of iteration statements are while, do while, for, or for each statement. Next we have branching or jump statements. These statements are responsible for transferring control of the program to another part of the code. So let's say from one location inside code, the control gets shifted to another location in the code, and then the execution of the code is continued from that location. Break statement, continue statement, go to statement, and return statement are examples of branching or jump statement. Now with this fundamental understanding of program flow statements, let's see these program statements in action.